who don't know me, my name's Taylor. I'm a member of the Mark Community Garden, and today I'm going to take you guys around my home garden and show you some of the things we've done in our yard to provide food for ourselves and the local wildlife. So I'm going to show you both the good and the bad. Maybe you can learn from us a little bit. And I know folks have a lot more time at home these days. A lot of people are getting out and working in their yards, which I think is awesome. So I just thought by showing you what's going on in my yard, I might give you some inspiration. Or, you know, maybe you just are looking for some ideas, or I can also show you a few things what not to do, which is also important. So yeah, I'm going to take you around the garden now. Okay, so to tell you about what's going on in our yard on a broad scale, we have a combination of raised beds. We have 2 of them. And then we have other plants planted around the beds. So you can see we don't have a very big yard. It's pretty small. Folks might have bigger yards, so you can't tear out all your grass, but we were able to tear out all our grass, which is awesome. So we went with raised beds. Got one and then another, because then you don't have to test your soil. If you're going to put plants directly in soil, there can often be lead paint chips or other things you don't want in your food. So you want to test your soil if you're not going to do raised beds. And then you can see my house is not south facing in the front, so that bed gets okay sunlight. This one really gets more sunlight, so you want to think about that as well. I think my favorite part of our garden, the best thing we did is put strawberries kind of as ground cover. You can see I've got a bloom there, which is really exciting. But we put strawberries all along the front of our bed here. But the thing to know about strawberries is they're gonna spread out. So ours have just continued to extend that way and are slowly gonna take over. So you wanna think about that when you're planting strawberries. This is our sage bush, which I would highly recommend putting sage in because it's just so good to have fresh. We just come out here and harvest it. And it does okay overwintering. Other things like rosemary you'll have to bring in the winter, but sage does really well. So this is another one of my favorite parts of our garden. Here's another exciting part of spring. These are chives, and they come up. They're one of the first things to come up. They grow and spread really quickly too, just like the strawberries. And these are their blossoms. They're gonna turn into little purple flowers soon that are really yummy on salads. The flowers taste like onions, so those are really fun. So this is another thing I really like to put in a garden. Just to tell you a bit about what I have in the garden right now, these are radishes. You can see something's kind of chewing them. There's a couple holes. So I'm going to need to come out and put some diatomaceous earth on here to kill any pests that are bugging those. But those are a good early season crop. And then we've got some sugar snap peas, which I always put in. They're so good, fresh. Those are coming up, and we'll have to stake those soon with a little trellis. My lettuce is not coming up as well. I'm not sure why, but I just do leaf lettuce. And you can harvest that 2 or 3 times throughout the season. Okay, to talk a bit about things I regret or would do differently, we put in 3 blueberry bushes in our front, and they just don't get enough sun at all. So this one on the corner gets the most sun. It's probably doing the best. I can start to see some blossoms, but the other 2 just don't get enough sun. So you really want full sun for blueberries. They'll get huge if you do. If you're gonna do blueberries, one thing to do is you want to put pine needles at the base, because blueberries need really acidic soil, so those pine needles will help put acid into your soil. So I said the strawberries were my favorite part of the yard, but I think actually my favorite part is our chickens. So I'm going to show you around our chicken coop. There they are. Hey ladies. So when we moved in, we just had this shed in the backyard that we really didn't have a use for. We didn't have a lawnmower or anything to store in it, so we decided to turn it into a chicken coop. So we cut a hole in the side that became the door, and then we fenced in this little yard. Again, our yard's very small, but we fenced in this little yard. We just used chicken wire. It's pretty cheap. And then we do have this net to protect them. They'll fly out, but also things will catch them. But they don't need a ton of space. They're pretty happy. And you could definitely we only have 8 chickens. You could give them less space if you wanted, but they do pretty well with this. Just so you can see inside the coop, you just need to give them a place to roost and to lay eggs. So they roost on that pole right there, and then they lay in these old recycled bins. You can use a lot of different things. they don't need this much space. They have way more space than they need. So if you had a smaller space, that would totally work. We've also set up our own composting systems, and these are really easy. Sometimes I think people make composting more complicated than it has to be. My friend Nathan Rutz showed us how to set these up. He runs a composting business in Cleveland. We just got this thicker wire, and you can make just a big circle with it. And we throw our food scraps in here. Also the chicken bedding and leaves. You want a good mix of things that are green and things that are brown. It's nitrogen and carbon. And we genuinely just throw stuff in here. It's been going for a year, and that down at the bottom has started to become soil. I actually pulled a bunch of it out this year to use on the garden. But this is just a cold compost system. We don't turn it or anything. It takes about a year, so it takes longer. But I think it's much easier and works for us. Once this one's full, we'll start filling that one. And then we'll get compost in about a year. I hope I've given you some ideas that maybe you'll take on in your garden. I am by no means a perfect gardener. I learned by being a garden educator with young kids, so I actually do best with plants that are very forgiving. I'm not very good at things that are really sensitive and take time, so I just kind of work with what I know how to do. You can see my gardens are not perfectly weeded. I like to use the weeds like dandelions. You can harvest those, but your garden doesn't have to look perfect. I hope you all just do the best to get out there and do what's going to make you happy and what's going to work for you. We certainly do that, and I think it's really made us enjoy our yard more. So yeah, good luck in your gardens, and I can't wait to see you all back at the Mark in the community garden.